have worked together for several years prior to starting Logica. So we've also, had time to really both learn and grow and know that that's what we wanted to do. But we very much think it's a strength, a superpower. There's a lot of efficiency and trust, and he and I both have very, complementary skill sets, and it works for us. We know and recognize it doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay, right? We know it works for us, and we're totally viewing it as a huge strength, and I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else. I think it's huge, kind of related to what I was just talking about with that exposure for each individual student. I grew up in Nebraska and went to UNL, and I'm a proud alumni, and I think there's a huge opportunity to get more and more students exposed to this whole venture ecosystem, whether that again is as an actual, investor or an entrepreneur that wants to kind of have that venture track. It's so important to get that exposure earlier on. I really got to experience it over, watching Most Mechanics over the years, and I would have loved to have that kind of opportunity when I was in college. So I think it's incredible. Maybe it sounds too obvious here, but I think it's density, and it's, and I think we've seen that growth as more and more companies and even the ecosystem evolve, right? Having more groups like Maverick Venture Fund and investor ecosystem, and just more and more companies in general, people starting companies. But I also think that we're seeing the signs of kind of how the ecosystem can renew itself, right? Where there's several companies, like we're on our second one. There's several others in the ecosystem that are now on multiple, not startup number one, but 2+. And I think it's a lot more of that kind of reinvestment and regrowth, because you can, continue to learn from, we know way more now with this one. So I think having more and more of that reinvestment and just overall experience in the ecosystem. Again, not to be too obvious here, but we started the company in January of 2020. So about shortly after that was when COVID hit. So just like pretty much any other company, and not just ones that started, but the whole world. I mean, there's a huge shift and impact of that, both immediately and then obviously even today, kind of the long-term impacts I think are still unfolding. And I'd say for us, it was so early on in the journey that in some ways we were very fortunate that we could move very quickly, right? We could adapt very quickly. It was just the two of us, and we also had prior experience with, distributed teams and kind of the whole Zoom environment. So we were able to, thankfully very quickly adapt and just continue all remotely, like calling people over Zoom. I figured out how to do live demos over Zoom, not just like me showing demos, but actually having people remote into my screen and click around so I could get actual user feedback before we'd actually launched. And so it was just that kind of like being able to quickly adapt to the new environment. And in a way, I think where we were already thinking of and had some of that experience, we could leverage it and yet also just kind of roll with it, because there was a lot of unexpected turns and companies that were going through major changes. It was just one of those moments that you just have to kind of roll with it and be grateful for the things that are working and just learn quickly. We constantly are putting updates out on social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, logica.cloud, has a lot of info on the product itself. If anybody's interested in actually checking out the product, we do have a wait list, but we're actively moving people off the wait list. So there's a way to request access there. And we're very excited. We're going to be hiring as well. And one of the first roles we'll be looking for is a financial analyst position. So we'll also have info on that job posting and others on our website.